Hey fandom fam, welcome back to my channel. I hope you all had a lovely holiday. Happy New Year. It is officially 2020, so to celebrate, I thought I would take a look back at the amazing TV that this decade blessed us with. I'm gonna go through my top 5 shows, my top 5 underrated shows, and my top 5 gone too soon. So starting with my 5 gone too soon, number 1, Shadowhunters. I love this show so much. If you guys haven't watched it, it basically centers on Clary. On her 18th birthday, she finds out that she is part of the Shadow World. She interacts with this guy named Jace, and he is a shadow hunter. So this exposes her to the Shadow World, which is full of warlocks and fairies and demons. She goes on this fantastical journey with her best friend. It's so good. If you haven't watched it, I highly recommend it. It was gone too soon. We should have got way more, but it does have an ending. It does not end on a cliffhanger. I would say it wraps up fairly nicely, so if you do plan on watching it, you will get a satisfying ending, I believe. It's so good. Everything from the script to the acting, the diversity, the topics that it covers, it's one of the best shows, and we definitely deserve more of this one. Coming in just under Shadowhunters, number 2, Anne with an E. I was gutted when the series ended, guys, and it was so crap the way that it ended because we got the season finale and then the next morning they just dropped, that was the final season, guys, sorry, we're done. What? We didn't get any sort of explanation at all, and they tweeted it out in a poster for Netflix, and you had to open the poster to like see that it said final season below it, which was just, oh, it was a ridiculous way to do it. I think they treated the fandom so badly on that front, although our actors were amazing to us. So I was really sad to see the show go. If you guys don't know, this is a retelling of Anne of Green Gables, which is a classic Canadian story. I think they just did it so well. Again, like Shadowhunters, this show was complex in nature, it was diverse in its storytelling, and it really focused on some amazing issues that are really important and that a lot of shows that are set in nowadays don't even do well. So it was one of my favorite shows this year, or this decade, I guess, and I highly recommend checking that one out as well. The 3rd season does drop on Netflix this month, so make sure that you stream it, and it does have, again, another satisfying ending. I really wish that all these shows had gone on, but at least these 2, they don't end on like a major cliffhanger or anything, so if you do plan on watching them, you'll be satisfied. Number 3, For the People. Now this one could have definitely been on my underrated list because I don't think a lot of people saw it, but basically it was a show about prosecutors and defense lawyers and them working together in New York across the aisle, and it starred Britt Robertson. It was so good, guys. It was so underrated. I think not a lot of people watched it, which was probably why it got canceled, but again, it had a really satisfying ending. I actually really enjoyed the ending of this one. I wish it could have gone on for more though, because again, the show it tackled amazing issues. It had one episode that I distinctly remember on immigration and basically ICE coming into courthouses and taking refugees or people without status and detaining them. The process of what those people had to go through and being able to see it from the lawyer's perspective was incredible and something I never understood or knew about really. So the way that they talked about issues was really important. It was another really great show that just gone too soon. Number 4, Rise. Now this one, if you haven't heard about it or seen it, because I don't think a lot of people had, only had 1 season, and it starred Ted Mosby, or Josh Radnor, I believe his name is, and he was the director of a play. They did Spring Awakening, so it was about a bunch of high school kids and all of their lives and drama. It was just beautifully written and so well done. I had never seen or known anything about Spring Awakening before, and it really made me want to see the play. Just really well done again, and I thought it showcased stories really well. It was kind of like a Friday Night Lights vibe, like a Parenthood vibe, so I was really disappointed to see that one go. And finally, number 5 on my gone too soon list, The Gifted. Oh, this show was also so good. Guy, all these shows are like about diversity and interesting issues and like have women at the forefront or on the crew, and it just, oh, it drives me crazy that they've all been canceled. The Gifted was a spin-off of the X-Men, kind of. So it was about mutants that were living in our world, and the world finds out that there are mutants living among them because it's after the X-Men movie happens. It was tackling issues that we have today about being different. The storytelling was so great, and I loved all of the lead actors. I was really bummed to see that one go, especially as a superhero fan. Now talking about my 5 underrated shows of the decade. Coming in at number 1, Timeless. Of course, the show was fantastic, and again, canceled. What is with me and canceled shows? I don't know if it's this decade there was just more shows that got canceled, or if I pick shows that get canceled. But basically, Timeless, if you haven't seen it, is about a history professor, a army special operative guy, and a pilot, an engineer. And so basically this really rich dude creates a time machine because he can, and then a terrorist steals the time machine. So they hire these 3 as a team to go back in the prototype of the time machine to stop the terrorists from changing history. It's fantastic. If you guys love history at all, it's amazing. They focus on a lot of stories in history that you don't learn about in school. Like, for instance, I learned that a woman invented Wi-Fi, which I think is amazing, and I had no clue that that happened. So it's really cool to learn different stories that you didn't know about. Sherlock Holmes, there was also a woman that was like identical to Sherlock Holmes. So it's really cool to see all these stories about people of color and women that are not often told. And there's also a fantastic ship in it. Timeless is great with its fandom. They throw in a lot of references for the fans. Just such a fantastic show. It had 2 seasons and then a 2-hour wrap-up movie, so this one does end well as well, but we should have got more of it. Number 2, Scorpion. This is one of my favorite pilots of the decade. If you've ever seen this pilot, you know what I'm talking about. Basically, this show focused on a group of geniuses, so they work with the FBI to solve crazy problems that occur in the world, like planes having software removed and they have to like upgrade a plane that's flying and they can't get it down. It was just a really, really cool show with a really cute ship and an adorable family. That one I think was really underrated. I think more people needed to watch that one. 3, Girl Meets World. Again, a canceled show. All of these shows are canceled. This is so sad. This is the saddest list ever. So Girl Meets World, if you guys don't know, it was a spin-off of Boy Meets World. Basically, Corey and Topanga have a kid named Riley, and well, they have 2 kids, Riley and Augie, and it's their story. It was so good. I only started watching it because I loved Boy Meets World so much, and I knew that they were bringing back the original characters like Eric Matthews, who I had such a crush on when I was a kid, and Sean. They intertwine a lot of the original show with the new show. We don't teach kids a lot these days, but it was a lot like Boy Meets World was when I was growing up. Like, at the end of every episode you learn something, and I just loved that. I thought it was such a fantastic show. So this one does end as well satisfyingly, although it did get canceled. So if you do end up watching it or showing your kids, then it does have a satisfying ending as well. Okay, so I only have 4 on this list. So the last one is Legends of Tomorrow. Honest to God, I don't know how this is still on air, but I love this little weird show that could. This show is part of the Arrowverse, if you guys watch that. It's probably the most underrated show of the Arrowverse. Basically, a team of misfits get taken aboard this time machine, and they have to stop anomalies that happen in time. Honest to God, I don't even think I could explain it. I think if I tried to, it would sound like the weirdest show ever, which it is, but you really just have to watch it. This team of misfits is the cutest team of people ever, and they form such a family. It's so weird and wonderful. They have really cool superpowers, and they get to go back in history and meet like Jane Austen and the Salem witches and do Bollywood musicals. They literally have everything. If you've ever wanted to watch a show that crosses all genres and is super weird, then definitely check out Legends of Tomorrow, because I can't say enough good things about this show. Before I get into my top 5 shows of the decade, I want to talk about some of my favorite pilots and the worst ending ever. So my favorite pilots this decade were The Newsroom, which was very underrated as well. And honestly, after season 1, I think it kind of went downhill a little bit, but I love that pilot. I rewatch it all the time. That opening, that cold open is one of the best. It basically focuses on a newsroom and actually telling the news, which is something we don't see a lot of today. And watching the show nowadays is really interesting because the themes that they were talking about then of news being sensationalized and being more for entertainment and ratings than it is actual news is still very relevant today. My second favorite pilot is Nancy Drew. I am not one for scary and I can't handle my scary, but I loved this pilot so much and I'm actually very proud of myself for being able to watch this show. It's on the CW, it's a retelling of Nancy Drew. I think the cast is just impeccable. Our Nancy Kennedy just slays Nancy. She is the perfect Nancy Drew. I already talked about Scorpion, so my third favorite pilot of the decade is Roswell, New Mexico. If you guys haven't watched this, it is a kind of reimagining of the original Roswell, and it's so good. I haven't fallen in love with a show like this in a really long time. The pilot packs so much, from the music to the characters to the storyline. It's just fantastic. I definitely recommend that show, checking it out. And the worst ending of the decade award goes to, I think you can all guess, Game of Thrones. If you haven't seen it, I won't spoil it for you, but after 8 years, guys, that's what they gave us. I could go on about it, but I'm gonna move into my top 5. So my top 5 shows of the decade in no particular order because these are all amazing. Number 1, Outlander. I love this show so much. It is beautiful, it is historic, I love a historical romance because it's just aesthetically pleasing and gorgeous. And Sam Heughan, I mean, one of the best shows. If you guys haven't watched it, it is basically Claire goes on her honeymoon. I believe she's in the 1940s in England. She goes on her honeymoon to Scotland, and while there, she falls through time, essentially, to the 1800s, I believe it is. Don't quote me on that. And she meets Jamie, who is kind of her soulmate, and she's trying to figure out a way to get back, and a lot of things happen, chaos ensues. It is beautifully done. If you love a historical romance, this one is for you. Number 2, Teen Wolf. This show was so good. It went downhill in the later seasons, but season 3 is one of my all-time favorite seasons of television ever. It is so fantastic. If you guys haven't seen it, it is basically a reimagining of the Teen Wolf movie, I think. Essentially, Scott becomes a werewolf, and it's his story and his pack story. Him and his best friend have to figure out this whole new world of werewolves and kitsunes and banshees. It's so fantastic. The way that they tell friendship storylines and female storylines. Overall, it was so well written. I take issue with the finale if you guys have watched my other video for Fanmas that centers on Teen Wolf, but I still really love this show, and I think overall it was definitely one of my favorites of the decade. Number 3, The 100. Now, in terms of this choice, it's an interesting one because this show infuriates its fandom a lot, and I think that there were definitely times where it was not written well at all, but it is still one of my favorite shows of the decade. I love the concept behind it. I love all of our characters, and it has one of the best slow burn ships on television ever, second to Stydia and Gilbert and Anne. I mean, our last season comes in 2020, so this year, and I'm hoping that this will all pay off in the end. We will see. Number 4, okay, I'm kind of cheating with this one, but I'm gonna say the Arrowverse, which encompasses Supergirl, Batwoman, Arrow, The Legends of Tomorrow, Black Lightning, The Flash. I believe that's all of them. There's a lot of shows in the Arrowverse, but I had to put this one in because it's crazy to think that over this decade we got all of those shows and all of these iconic superheroes. DC just does their shows so well, and with Arrow going out this year, I mean, it's the ending of an era. Steven is our Robert Downey Jr., and he started it all, and now we're kind of in a new era of it. I'm recording this before Crisis ends in December, so I don't know how we're gonna feel this when you're watching this, but I mean, to think that we got that in one decade is just mind-boggling, and I can't wait to see where the rest of it goes. And finally, All American. Now this one I think is super underrated and shouldn't be because it's so good. This one, if you were a fan of Friday Night Lights or One Tree Hill, then this one is definitely for you. It focuses on character more than it focuses on plot, which I think on a lot of TV shows today is lost. It's such a shame because those are my favorite shows growing up to watch. So this one, if you didn't know, focuses on Spencer James and his family. He comes from Crenshaw in LA, and he moves to Beverly Hills to play football for their football team. It's basically his life adjusting to the two cities and his family and his new friends, and it's based on a real football player and his life journey. Every episode is super emotional and character focused. You just get to see a new level of things that you don't get to see on television. Like, Spencer is one of the most vulnerable men I've ever seen portrayed on TV as a Black teenager, which is amazing. One of the storylines also focuses on depression, and they do that in a way that I've never seen depression portrayed on TV at all. So the way that they delve into their stories is really great. It has some of the best friendships, the best female role models. So it's really a fantastic show. It is on Netflix, at least in America, so make sure you check it out. So that covers my top TV shows of the decade. Let me know in the comments below what TV shows that you loved this decade. I know there were so many stories. I hate that most of my list got canceled though. That's actually really sad. But we've been blessed with a lot of amazing stories, even if they were gone too soon. So let me know what TV shows you loved of the decade, or what TV shows you're looking forward to with the spring premieres, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!